An Einstein ring is a very cool feature of gravitational lensing where a background galaxy gets stretched out into a full ring around the foreground lens. A molten ring is a really interesting case where it's one of the largest galaxies that forms a near-complete Einstein ring. The molten ring, you have a very large cluster of galaxies that has magnified this background galaxy. Einstein's theory of general relativity is really sort of what predicted these Einstein rings in the first place. He created this whole machinery for how gravity is supposed to work. Matter would tell space-time how to curve, and space-time would tell matter how to move. And then as you have light moving through this curved space-time, those equations led to the prediction that this light would almost move on what seems like curved paths and cause the phenomenon of gravitational lensing, which is where this light gets essentially bent and distorted by a foreground lens, like a galaxy cluster, and creates these stretched out images that are magnified of these distant galaxies that we see. It's definitely a bit of an optical illusion, so if you were to take the gravitational lens completely away, then these background galaxies would just look like, the normal everyday galaxies that we see at these distances. And it'd be a lot harder to pick apart what's going on in their inner workings. So the gravitational lensing effect, it is kind of like looking at a funhouse mirror. It makes the background object appear a little bit bigger, a little bit distorted, just like you go to a funhouse and you see, your head looks gigantic, your body looks tiny. It's a similar effect, but we can use it for science as opposed to just, looking at ourselves and saying, oh wow, that's kind of funny. The Hubble Space Telescope has definitely taken the clearest images of the Einstein rings, and they've really, verified this part of Einstein's theories of general relativity. They've really, shown us a lot more about how gravitational lensing works, and really sort of pushed the limits of what we can learn about these distant galaxies with gravitational lensing.
Conclusion we've come to from that is that there's a significant spherical aberration appears to be present in the optics.
And that we should be able to fix it in our insurance program.
I was not cynical enough yet to have an item that says we put the wrong mirror in the telescope.
10, 9, and we have a go for main engine start. 5, 4.
That was not part of my equation. And that hurt.
Liftoff. Liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavour on an ambitious mission to service the Hubble Space Telescope.
The spacewalking is an athletic event. Okay, I gotta fix this thing. What are the tools? Come up with the tools, and what is the motion of the tools? And so I look at the tools and me as a dance, like an athletic event, and I trained with prime athletes. But the people at Goddard and Ceppolina and everyone else with the right kind of spirit, it's teamwork. It's teamwork, that's what it is. All the components that we might change out, they were designed to be changed with a spacewalk. So that's flexibility, that's looking for the future, that's designing for failures. A perfect spacewalk is one that you pull off just as accurate as an Olympic high jumper. Here's what you do. And so I envision, here's the problem, and I, of course, do not have the right solution right away. That evolves the final motions I'm going to do.
Watch your right hand. I have you. Okay, pull me away.
There's no doubt there's public pressure. There's no doubt the results, people are waiting to get it fixed, and a lot of it should not have happened. The mirror floor was inexcusable, but the world is not perfect. There is public pressure. It's important to people to get that thing fixed, and so that's the consequence. You feel the consequences.
You have practiced every one of these maneuvers literally hundreds of times, and you've gone into those water tanks to practice it. What was different about it when you were shoving that piano-sized camera into the Hubble yesterday?
So, yes, we practiced for hundreds and hundreds of hours. We try to identify every kind of surprise that we might run into. I've been running scared really ever since I got assigned to this mission, and the key thing was surprise. But I think even way beyond that, I certainly will not relax until 6 weeks or 2 months from now when we see how the solar rays perform, we see how the stars perform, we start getting optical images back from all the instruments and see the aberration is corrected. Only at that time will I kind of relax and think that we have gotten the job done.
The relationship with the crew was perfect all the way around. It was marvelous. We had a great crew. We landed the shuttle. Covey's coming downstairs. I had gone down to the middeck. He's coming down. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Story, I am proud of you." Enough to bring me to tears. "Story, I'm proud of you." That was very nice.
And I'm happy to announce today that after its launch now in 1990, some of its earlier disappointments, the trouble with Hubble is over.
Yeah, that was impressive. My first view of the repaired telescope. But of course, there were moments earlier than that, you know, when Claude picked it up and let it go, and that's my sweetie, and we're leaving. We think we got it all done. We think she's, you know, that was a big moment too when we're leaving. There she goes, we're leaving. But it was Galaxy M100. Oh my God. What? It was an outrageous picture. I don't know if it brought me to tears or not.
Before this flight and during the flight, actually, it's been billed as very important for fixing Hubble, for demonstrating orbital servicing, and in some sense for showing NASA can still do really difficult missions and do them well. To you, what was the most important reason to go do this mission?
I describe it as NASA had the courage to go for it all, to do absolutely everything on Hubble that it needed doing. They dared. They had the courage to go for the whole thing. In a nutshell, I think, what was it all about? It was NASA had the courage to go for it all.
It was just a massive part of my life. Incredibly fortunate that I got to participate in that machine. That I got to be part of it.
Hello, Story.
Well, hello everyone. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance, and I am here with my co-host, David Levy. Let's bring David on. There we go. Through the magic of Zoom and the internet, we're across the country from each other, but we're right next to each other too. So I just want to say that you know that our theme this 143rd Global Star Party is journey, and we've all had amazing journeys in our understanding of astronomy and learning about the night sky and all of its amazing wonders that are out there. David has taken all of this many steps further with all of his discoveries and diving into the literature of astronomy and often waxing poetic and finding amazing poetry to recite here on Global Star Party. David, thanks for hosting this with me. It's an honor to do this with you. And I know that all the speakers, the presenters on Global Star Party feel very honored to do this with you as well. So I think it's wonderful. David, I'll turn this over to you and you can kick it off.
Well, thank you, Scott Roberts. And it is wonderful to be here to celebrate the theme of journeys. Of course, we started with Story's journey to repair the Hubble Space Telescope just in time to capture a few good shots of a comet colliding with Jupiter 30 years ago this year. And but I'm taking the theme of journeys personally. I'm looking at all of the journeys that I've taken in my life's journey to enjoy the night sky, and physical journeys all over the place. And I haven't taken too many in the last year, but it looks like I'm going to be taking quite a few coming up. I am leaving next week to visit San Diego to celebrate the birthday of a close friend of mine, Gene Mueller, who was really was and is one of my very closest friends for life. And then in April, I understand if I behave myself, I will be going on a journey to see an astronomical event. I forget what it is, but it takes place on the 8th of April, and I better be there. Yeah, and then right after that, I just found out a few minutes ago that I'm supposed to be at NEAF. And I had no idea about that, but I found out about it. And so that needs to be arranged. And I will probably be there and to celebrate with good friends. And then the month after that, I will be in Europe at the Star Muse Festival. And with much the same friends and other friends, but in Europe. But of all of the trips, which one do I want to celebrate today, right now? That is a journey that I took in 1974. I went to New Orleans to visit my grandparents. I then went out to California, where I visited the 200-inch telescope, and I started to walk towards another smaller telescope, and I got pushed to the side by someone who said, "This is private, you can't visit that telescope." And I said, "Well, I'm just going to go visit the outside of it. Would it be okay?" And he said, "Well, I don't think anyone would mind if you're just going to look at the dome. That's the 18-inch." The first telescope ever put on Palomar. And I visited it for the once and only time until I started working there with Gene and Carolyn Shoemaker. On March the 23rd, 1993, at that telescope, I took the 2 photographs that led to the discovery of Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. But the main part of that trip in 1974 was not Palomar. It was actually the visit to Delphos, Ohio, where I visited and met for the first time Leslie C. Pelcher. And that brings me to the quotation of today. It comes from his book, Starlight Nights, which I still maintain is the best book that I've ever read. If I were out in a desert island, if I were on a ship, say, and the ship was sinking, going down into the middle of the ocean, and they said, "Okay, the ship's going to sink, but we have a library that contains all of the best books ever written. And before the ship sinks, I want each of you to pick out your favorite book." The book that I picked out was Starlight Nights. And from Starlight Nights, I'm going to do my poetical quotation from Leslie Peltier. Within historic times, 28 visits by Halley's Comet have been recorded. On an early trip, it witnessed the defeat of Attila's the Hun in AD 451. It arrived in time to preside over the Norman conquest in 1066. In the year 1456, the menacing appearance of the comet so alarmed Pope Calixtus decreed he did something to several days of prayer and established the midday Angelus. With a great clanging of bells, he then besought the comet to visit its wrath solely on the invading Turks. In 1607, it was watched by both Shakespeare and Kepler. And I like to think that it was also seen by Captain John Smith and Pocahontas in the frontier skies of Jamestown. And there's more. On the following trip around in 1682, the comet was observed by Halley himself, who probed into its periodic past and bequeathed to it an honored name that it can bear with pride throughout the solar system. By 1835, when it returned, affairs of Earth had speeded up. Many a canal boat traveler looking down could see the comet glowing on the surface of his highway. Humanity himself had taken to the skies when the comet last appeared in 1910, for he was making fledgling flights of perhaps 100 miles. And here is where we get to the fact that Starlight Nights was written in 1965, published that year, before Halley made his visit in 1986. And here is the conclusion of this wonderful piece of writing by Peltier. In 1986, our historic visitor will be visited in turn, for in that year, a spacecraft from the Earth will hold a rendezvous with Halley's Comet out in space. Who would venture to foretell the wonders and achievements which the comet will witness in that distant year of 2062? Or will humanity itself prove periodic? Will the Huns be back again? Thank you, Scott, and that is the quotation.
Thank you. That's great. Wonderful. Okay. Well, our next speaker is none other than David Eicher. David Eicher has spent the better part of 4 decades with Astronomy magazine. He is the editor-in-chief of the magazine. He probably knows more about galaxies. I mean, as far as somebody that you can sit down and have dinner with, and he can talk about this galaxy or that galaxy. I mean, just from memory, he can tell you, features of the galaxies themselves, who discovered them, how far away they are, what group of galaxies they're part of, and all the rest of it. He's written great books about it, we're very lucky to have him on Global Star Party as a regular. So I will turn this over to you, David. Thank you so much again for coming on Global Star Party yet again. I don't know how many of these you've done now, but I think it's going on maybe 100. And so that's quite a feat. So David Levy and I have done, it's now 143. So, but I think once you get past 100, David, you can consider yourself like a native of the Global Star Party ecosystem.
Well, I'm honored for you to say that, and it's great to be on with you guys. Thanks to you, Scott, and thanks to David as well.
Thank you.
And we're brothers in being deluded by galaxies.
Yeah.
And loving it. So
I'm looking forward to David's lecture today, but perhaps you could mention a little bit at the start of your lecture. I would like to know who got you the job at Astronomy magazine centuries ago.
Well, I had a lot of old friends. One of my closest old friends at that time was David Levy. And I think you're familiar with that guy. And he was involved in my relationship, getting to know Richard Berry and Robert Burnham. And it's been actually the full measure of it's actually been 41 years now. So it's about time I get out of here at some point. But yeah, those were the days back when we were all much younger. And Richard was running the magazine, and we all got to know them. David, you were writing for both Astro and S&T, I think, at the time. And
Yeah, I started writing for astronomy and then sort of switched paths to everybody's annoyance, and then switched back again to even more people's annoyance. And now I'm just doing my Skyward article that gets published in a lot of journals and magazines and stuff all over the world. I've been doing that, and a book is going to come out one of these years based on the articles that I've written over the last 20 years for this latest column that I do.
is that right?
Wonderful.
It is right. And I've never written a book before, so it'll be fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
David, you haven't gotten up. You've done 140 talks. You haven't done 140 books yet, but close.
But close.
Yeah.
That's right. I think between the two of you, you've done about 100 books. So both, I mean, the audience is watching both of you now, and they fully recognize the contributions that both of you have made to the astronomy community. And so, you know, we're all very, we're honored to have the two of you with us. And, you know, and I think that also that your friendship, your, you know, the interactivity that you guys have had with each other to make the amateur astronomy community and probably the professional astronomy community what it is today, you know, we owe you both a great amount of thanks.
Well, the honor is mine, but I think this is David's time, so let us turn
Let's
the
let
mic.
him, okay, we'll let him talk.
Thank you, Scott.
He's going to
And
talk
you-
about one of my favorite things, so.
You've been a part of that friendship, Scott, also for a long, long time. And
Thank you.
thankfully, David was so kind-hearted that he took pity on this dumb kid from Ohio who started a publication and wrote for that publication too, and helped to make it what it became as well. So we've been pals for a long, long time. And it's an honor to be here with all of you here. So I'm done for the moment talking about the Civil War. You know, I think I heard applause as far south as Fort Sumter there. But now I'm back to talking about objects over and over and over again. We haven't run out of those yet. So I'm going to share my screen and see if I can share the correct screen and see if I can start a slideshow. And you should be seeing Centaurus A, which has nothing to do whatsoever with what we're going to talk about. Well, it is a galaxy, but we're going to talk about a different galaxy. We're still in the far northern sky, but we're working our way south. And by the time, you know, of the next solar eclipse, 21 years from now in the United States, we may run out of these objects. NGC 5907, though, is a really good galaxy, partly because when we talk about edge-on galaxies, the geometry of how we see galaxies near us in the universe, most of them are not really precisely edge-on. This one is. You'll see a picture of it here. It's really very much edge-on, and it's an SA galaxy. It's in Draco in the far northern sky. Sometimes it's called the splinter or the knife edge because it is so narrow. It's a short distance in the sky from M102, which there's a controversy about for its identification too, but we'll take it as NGC 5866 in the classical form. This is an 11th magnitude galaxy, 5907 that is. It measures almost 13 arc minutes across, and we see its disk essentially completely edge-on. It is a member of the M102 group, which is about 53 million light years away, roughly the same distance as the Virgo cluster here from us, but in a different direction. This is a prototypical warped spiral, which is also an unusual galaxy relatively near us in the cosmos. In 2006, a team of astronomers announced that they had detected an extensive tidal stream surrounding the galaxy. This is indicative of its earlier interaction with a warp in its disk. And so it has undergone some chaos and some tumult with galaxies near it in the past, but it's relatively isolated now. So it survived that encounter. As we know, galaxies, because of gravity, although generally the universe at large scales is expanding, galaxies like to play with each other in tight spaces, and they often distort the shapes of their neighbors. This galaxy has a very low metallicity and a very small number of giants. It has a huge population of dwarf stars, so there's not much star formation going on in this galaxy for a long time into the past, which is a little bit unusual. There is one supernova on record in this galaxy in 1940 that was a 14th magnitude exploding star. So it's an odd duck, this galaxy, for 4 different reasons here, which makes it a little bit interesting, especially if you want to really see a good example of an edge-on spiral. This is again borrowing from Ron Stoyan's Great Interstellarum Deep Sky Atlas. You can see he labels it as the splinter galaxy here. M102 is just a little bit to the lower right there, and we're not far from some other well-known Draco galaxies as well. Here's the galaxy, and you can see that it really is very much edge on. We're seeing almost an equilinear view of the dust belt that goes around the bright disk of the galaxy there. So that's about as precisely edge on as you can hope for in nearby galaxies in the universe. This is interesting. It's an unusual shot. This is from Spitzer. This is an infrared shot of NGC 5907, and the pinkish stuff here is dust. So you can see how dust dominated and that it's relatively inactive as far as star formation goes, and that there's some sort of younger, more active areas near the center of the galaxy, but not much going on in terms of star formation here. So that's it. I just wanted to throw, there'll be more to talk about, you know, and less with some of these objects. That's a fairly straightforward object, but if you want an edge on galaxy, that's a good one to go after if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. There's some other breaking news here. I don't know if any of you have heard about this yet, but we're going to have an eclipse in North America this year. I don't want to shock or stun or surprise you, but this is going to be April 8th. Of this year. We have an issue that is a special issue that is full of eclipse coverage, very much like the one we did 7 years ago. Has great maps in great detail from Michael Zeiler, his Great American Eclipse Company. Michael Bakich has written a number of these stories that tell you how to get the most out of your viewing, as well as features by Rich Talcott and Steve O'Meara and others. So this is a special edition that is packed with everything you need to know for the eclipse, which presumably you're already geared up for. And if you're a good person and an Astronomy magazine subscriber, you will be getting this very shortly in your mailbox. And if not, you still have time for self-improvement. It's saying,
right.
Okay.
You can still be good. Okay.
We're trying to help people in this world. Well,
right,
most of us are.
It also
You know,
takes
there's
a subscription
American
to Astronomy
politics
magazine.
going on as well, but most of us are actually trying to help other people. Okay,
right.
believe it or not. And this is the way you can be very well informed for this big event. You have to wait a long time in the United States of America for a good eclipse thereafter 21 years. So, you know, if you miss this one, the only one that's going to top this one for the rest of our lives, any of us who are talking now, will be in Egypt on August 2nd, 2027, where you'll be able to see the eclipse pass over the Temple of Luxor, go across the Nile, see the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens after the eclipse. And the odds there of a clear sky are about 99.8% in August. So that's going to be a hard one to top, the Egyptian eclipse. But it's a little more convenient here to see this for Americans this year. So I encourage you to see this one.
Wonderful.
Then finally, at long last, we have an official announcement and tickets on sale for the Starmus Festival, Starmus 7, which Scott and Michael Bakich and others of our collaborators, David, will be there speaking. I'll be there hosting part of the event, and we have an astrophoto school going on. Scott will be helping us run a star party, which will be excuse me, modest, and we expect that we'll only have something like 6,000 to 8,000 people there. So it's going to be, a small undertaking. This is going to be in May of 2024, coming up fast here. You can go to starmus.com to find out now about tickets. The tickets are very reasonably priced. They're inexpensive, I think it's fair to say. And it's not hard to get there because it's actually very close to Vienna, Austria, which is a major destination in Europe for aircraft. So there will be many, many astronauts, Nobel Prize speakers, rock musicians speaking there, as well as playing and performing, and even people like Scott and David and I will be there as well. So we look forward to seeing you in Bratislava, Slovakia in May. And if you don't make it there, you will have to perhaps read about what happened there without you. So we hope to see you there.
That's right. That's right.
Scott, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Well,
And
Starmus is definitely going to be a mind-blowing event. Having participated not last year, but the year before, it was just amazing and kind of, you almost feel like you're in a dream state because you're surrounded by Nobel laureates and just brilliant people, but it's a very relaxed setting, and just to be able to sit down with rock stars and Nobel laureates and to sit down in the audience with them, it was just, there's nothing else like it, So if you read, you should go to the starmus.com website. I put it on the chat there. Read the testimonials. I mean, guys like Stephen Hawking, who was one of the founders of it, just talks about it glowing, saying, I sure hope they invite me back. So,
we did invite him back. Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. But it's superlative. And the music that was produced there, also very original, to sit back and watch Brian May perform with, last time he was with the Armenian Children's Choir, the Armenian Symphony, and, Brian May and other guests that he had on. And I think much of it was unrehearsed to some degree, but it sounded so tight, so good that, I wish there was a recording of it for other people to hear.
It pretty much was rehearsed very quickly, but these guys are so good. And of course, Rick Wakeman should be back as a legend on keyboards, of course, in rock and roll. And, Peter Gabriel and Brian Eno and others are on our friends of the board as well, or on the board for Peter. So, we'll have a lot of musical stuff there. It is something that you kind of go a little numb and say, wow, is this really, it's a little bit of a sensory overload. There's so many people. You can see who the speakers are. We'll have Jane Goodall there in person, who has joined our board now, speaking about primatology and so on. But it's a who's who, not just of astronomy and cosmology, but all the sciences and astronaut and space exploration technology. There's going to be a big focus this year on AI, artificial intelligence, where things are going. There'll be talk about climate change and the health of the planet. There'll be a lot of rock and roll and fun too. So, and we have some surprises that will be announced a little bit later. So we hope that you'll be able to come, and there'll be future Starmuses, of course. But, the trick with Garrick, the director and founder, is that, it has to get bigger and better every time. And
every
somehow
time
pulls this off, it's remarkable. So we hope we'll see you there.
Somebody with the moniker of Fender90 is watching on YouTube, and he says, I concur, last Starmus was a surreal experience. So with a name like Fender90, I think this is probably a musician watching. So whoever you are.
It's not Brian, because Brian uses Vox amps. Yeah. So
Vox amps. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's very cool. All right, so we will move on. David, I am going to let you introduce Chuck Allen.
Is this David or the other
This
David?
David.
Well, this David. Okay, I thought it was the other David.
Yes.
There are actually two Davids here tonight. Anyway, this will be this David. David Shakespeare is going to introduce Chuck Allen. I want to say something about the Astronomical League. It is an organization that was started by Harlow Shapley and others over 100 years ago, and to try to get a group of amateur star lovers, not necessarily amateur astronomers, but amateur lovers of the night sky together. And it started with conferences that took place on the East Coast. And then maybe 20, 25 years ago, it finally migrated over to the West Coast, getting organizations like our local Tucson Amateur Astronomy Association involved. And it still does the annual conference. The one that will become held this summer that I will be attending will be in Kansas City. And so Chuck Allen is our representative from the League today, and he is going to talk with us about the Astronomical League, about things that it can offer, things that it will inspire us to do. And now I would like to present, it's my deep honor to present Chuck Allen. Take it away, Chuck.
Thank you, David. Thank you for those nice remarks about the League, and hello, everyone. The League is now 78 years old, to be exact, with 23,000 members across the country, and we're expanding into other countries as well at this point. So it's very healthy. We have a number of great requests to the League and to its trust fund, which has really helped a great deal. Actually, what I'm going to be talking about tonight's a little bit different than that, but if there's time at the end, I'll make some remarks about the League at that point. So let me share screen here. And I'm going to go to from the beginning. Here we are. Okay. What I want to talk about tonight is the concept of journey, which is the subject of tonight's program. And there are many ways to journey into the universe. And among those, of course, are manned space travel and unmanned space travel, and also telescopic observation. And back on December the 7th of 1972, I had the opportunity to observe the third of the three moon launches that I did witness in Florida. This was, of course, Apollo 17, and it was the final trip to the moon, December 7th, 1972. And aboard this particular flight was Harrison Schmitt, who was a scientist, he was a geologist. I had the opportunity to observe this from the VIP area because of Senator John Sherman Cooper. I had a couple of ins because I was an Air Force officer, and he had been taught by my grandfather in college. Anyway, Apollo 17 featured this scientist who visited us at the Astronomical League's convention in Albuquerque 2 years ago. And this is one of the things that you can do, not only at StarMus, but also at League conventions, and that's meet some pretty interesting people. This is one of the friendliest astronauts. He is in the Story Musgrave class of friendliness. He will hang around as long as people want to talk to him or take photographs with him. And Dr. Schmitt is really a remarkable person. And he participated, of course, in the furthest manned visit that we've made to another world, which is to our own moon. That's as far as we've managed to get. But as far as that is, it's not quite the human altitude record. Amazingly enough, the human altitude record in terms of human journey was set by the ill-fated Apollo 13 mission in 1970, 2 years before Apollo 17. Lovell, Hayes, and Swigert, of course, could not land on the moon because of an exploded oxygen tank in the service module, but they did loop widely around the moon, which was near apogee at the time. and reached a distance of 249,205 miles from the Earth. And that still holds the record as the furthest human beings have ever been from home, here 54 years later. Of course, we're looking to go somewhere else. We're hoping that we can get to Mars at some point. And how will we go there? How will we make this journey to another planet? It would seem likely that we would fly straight out and intercept Mars as it comes around and reaches a point that's fairly close to Earth. It can get as close as roughly 34 million miles. Amazingly enough, though, that's not how we'll do it. Mars, of course, can be as far away as 250 million miles, but the journey we will take to Mars, if we go, will be 300 million miles long. Now, you're probably wondering, why in the world don't we just take the short route, 34 million? Part of the reason is because we have to, first of all, undo the 67,000 mile per hour orbital speed of the Earth around the sun. That's 2.5 times the escape velocity from the Earth. So you'd need a vector that was in the opposite direction of the Earth in order to go straight out to Mars, and that's very difficult to do. Secondly, in order to go straight out to Mars, you'd have to climb directly out of the Earth's gravity well, and that takes a lot of energy also. And we just don't have that kind of fuel capacity. So what we'll do is this: we will use the Earth's orbital speed, kind of track along with it, carrying that speed right off the launch pad, and then just intercept Mars about halfway around the sun. It's a long journey, but it's very fuel efficient. It takes about 9 months. It's called a Hohmann transfer orbit, a Hohmann transfer orbit, very efficient. Of course, unmanned spacecrafts have taken us far, far beyond all of this. We've visited the moon with unmanned spacecraft, even a couple that are taking a nap on their side at the moment. All of the planets, we have visited several asteroids and comets, the moons of planets and dwarf planets. And the takeaways from this are that unmanned space travel is very efficient. If you've ever seen images from the Cassini mission that spent so much time around Saturn, taking incredible views of the rings, of the surface of Saturn's cloud tops, and all of its moons, an incredible mission. Voyager 2 went to Neptune, had passed by Neptune 12 years after its launch in 1989. I remember watching the newsreels of this coming in when I was in New York for a meeting. We got to see details in the cloud tops of Neptune that we'd never seen before. But again, the journey took 12 years to get there. That's now, of course, the furthest planet from the sun among the major planets that we consider to be such. Its companion spacecraft, Voyager 1, is currently the furthest man-made object from the Earth. It now lies 15 billion miles from the Earth. That's roughly 5 times further than Neptune is from the sun. And it has taken now 47 years to get there. And it's traveling a little over 38,000 miles per hour. So the question is, what if it were headed toward the nearest star to the sun? What if we wanted to send an unmanned spacecraft like Voyager 1 at 38,000 miles per hour in the direction of the nearest star to the sun, Proxima Centauri? How long would it take to get there? And the answer is a bit more than 75,000 years. And that's the nearest star of all the ones that we could possibly visit. Amazing time frame in order to get there. Now, I will tell you that it is possible, because of special relativity, to travel great distances. In fact, if you could develop a rocket that could achieve 1g acceleration, which is what you're feeling now sitting in your chair, and maintain that for a little more than 1 year, drift for a while, and then decelerate for 1 year, you could traverse 4.2 light years to Proxima Centauri in about 3.6 years of shipboard time. From the Earth, it would appear to take 6 years. So it is possible. The only problem with maintaining 1g burns for 2 years, accelerating and then decelerating, is that you'd need about 250 pounds of fuel for every 1 pound of spacecraft that you put into launch toward the star. Worse yet, if you hit anything, even sand grains going anywhere close to the speed of light, you're going to suffer fatal damage to the spacecraft. And then you've got the problem of where you end up stopping. By the time you slow down, you might find yourself nowhere near Proxima, but relatively close to it. But relatively close is not really good enough when you're talking about space travel. Look how long it took to get to Neptune, which is a mere 3 billion miles away. Travel using this 1G method can be visualized here. As you can see, Proxima would take about 6 years viewed from Earth, but it would be possible to go vastly greater distances within periods of 30 to 50 years using this method, which again is not, from an engineering standpoint, very practical. Well, what do we see when we look at the summer sky from a dark sky location? You look toward the middle of our galaxy. Now you're really studying the universe with human vision and with telescopes. And what we see here is actually looking toward the center of our galaxy from the sun, but we're really being blocked by intermediate galactic arms. And we're seeing perhaps a lot of these two arms right here as we look toward Sagittarius in the center of our galaxy. And what you're actually seeing here in terms of these star clouds, you're looking at a distance of about 60 quadrillion miles, about 20 million times the distance to Neptune. And you can do it with your eyes. Just take a look. You can also see this with your unaided eyes. On a reasonably good night, if you know where to look in the constellation of Andromeda, you can see our big sister galaxy, the Andromeda Galaxy, Messier 31. It lies at 2.5 million light years. We're looking across a vast void here between the galaxies in our local group of galaxies, which consist of 3 principal galaxies, the Milky Way in the lower right here, Andromeda in the upper left, and little M33, which is to the upper right of Andromeda. I had an interesting experience with M33 when I was 8 years old. I got frustrated because I couldn't see it in the 3-inch telescope. I went to bed, still frustrated, and then leaned out of a second floor window with a pair of binoculars and aimed them straight up a triangle and was able to see it. I slept like a baby after that. As we look in the direction primarily of Virgo, Coma Berenices, Ursa Major, Leo, roughly in the springtime sky, we see a lot of familiar galaxies like these. And why we're seeing so many bright and famous galaxies in that direction, this is the center of what we call the Virgo cluster, flying at a distance of about 65 million light years. And what we're seeing when we look in this direction is we're looking up kind of a conically shaped filament of galaxies. Here, the Milky Way is the red dot, and we're looking at these famous galaxies I showed you, and then the big Virgo cluster here. And we lie at the end of this filament. And as we back away a little bit and look in the other direction, we see NGC 253, the Sculptor galaxy, the silver coin, which is here. And we don't see many galaxies in that direction because we're looking out into a void. It's called the Sculptor void, predictably. So here we are. Here's Andromeda, and here we work our way to the Virgo cluster. This is obviously a 2-dimensional representation of something that needs to be displayed in 3 dimensions, of course. But you're seeing now a realm of about 250 million light years, and it's a complex of galaxy clusters called Laniakea, which means immeasurable heaven. And if we back away even further, we begin to see our location in relation to even more complex structures. And Richard Gott, who's been a friend of mine since I was 11 years old and he was 12, when he was in high school, discovered a number of hitherto undiscovered pseudo-polyhedrons. And this led him to do research later, which he published. And this research into polyhedrons actually led him and a compatriot at Princeton into postulating and then proving that the universe had a sponge-like structure. Think of Swiss cheese, where you can eat your way through the cheese or fly up through all the holes all the way through the cheese. And this led to the discovery of the cosmic web. By the way, he wrote a book called The Cosmic Web based on this. And this cosmic web is vast, a vast network of galaxies and galaxy clusters that drapes its way through space. If we back away even further to 10 billion light years, we would see a structure something like this. Now, what can you do as amateurs if you buy a telescope or you have access to the telescopes at a local astronomy club? Well, here's what the JWST, the James Webb Space Telescope, can do. It can identify this current record-holding distant galaxy called HD1 in the constellation of Sextans. The light from this proto-galaxy, which is now a well-developed galaxy, has taken 13.5 billion years to reach the cameras that took this picture. Today, because the universe has been expanding the entire time that light's been traveling to us, HD1 lies at 33 billion light years. But don't fret, because even small telescopes can do amazing things. With a mere 4-inch telescope on a real good night, you could image 3C273, not image, but see in the telescope with your own eyes. Magnitude plus 13, essentially, and you'd be looking at an object whose light, a quasar, a bright active galactic nucleus, whose light has been traveling to you for 2.4 billion light years. And that's just a 4-inch telescope that can accomplish that. What can you do with an 8 to 10-inch telescope? Well, there's another quasar in Draco, PG 1634706. It's very easy to find because of this little pair of 8th magnitude stars here. And once you find it, you just look for this triangle and then follow the dots. 3 14th magnitude stars in a little arc. And this one right here, well, that one, the light has been traveling to you for 9.6 billion years when it stops in your eye. Today, it lies at nearly 13 billion light years distance. Now, this distance is 5.6 septillion miles. That's 2 trillion times further than Neptune. And you could see it with any ordinary small telescope that you would find in an astronomy club or perhaps in your own basement. This is what you're seeing. You're looking all the way across the cosmic web, basically. The light left there when it was here has taken 9.6 billion years to reach us, and it's now out here at 12.9 because the whole thing's been expanding since then. But you can do even better. With an 18-inch telescope, maybe a 16, you can see APM 082795255 in Lynx. It's another quasar, another active galactic nucleus, whose light has been traveling to you when you see it for over 12 billion years. And that's in a universe that's only 13.8 billion years old. Today, it lies at 23.6 billion light years, an incredible distance. What you are seeing is halfway to the edge of what we call the observable universe, which is the theoretical limit of objects' location today that we could possibly see today, and 2/3 of the distance to HD1, which is imaged by the James Webb Space Telescope. Rather incredible. And if you're feeling small, I've got a cure for that. One of my favorite little element samples here. It's a cubic inch of tungsten, heavy as heck. And this little cubic inch of tungsten happens to have 1.03 septillion atoms in it, just slightly more than 1 septillion. That means 100 million atoms along one edge. And that is well more than the total number of stars in the entire observable universe. And it's mostly empty space. So if you ever get to feeling small looking at space, just get yourself a cube of tungsten and point to it. Say, universe. Thanks a lot, Scott.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Dave, yes.
Thank you so much, Chuck. To say that I enjoyed that is an understatement. And as I was listening to what you had to say, my own mind was going back to my own past when in 1977, I was visiting Arizona. I had no idea that I'd be living here after a while. But we went out to Organ Pipe National Monument. And while I was there, I set up Minerva, my 6-inch telescope, which is now undergoing a fix-up. And I was able visually to look at the galaxy, at the quasar 3C273. It looks like just a star, just a faint star. But it was absolutely unforgettable. I've never forgotten that. And what was also unforgettable was during your lecture just now, bringing me back to that wonderful, wonderful observing that I did all those years ago. Thank you, Chuck. And
Thank
back to
you,
you.
David. I appreciate it.
That's great. Okay. All right. So we will take it away to our next speaker, Adrian Bradley, who has participated in many global star parties now. This is a guy perpetually in search of grand views of the Milky Way and nightscapes that kind of blow our minds. Adrian came on to the last global star party during I think he was at a bowling alley.
I was bowling.
His broadcast from bowling alleys, from his car, from out where he was doing photography. And thank you for coming on to the 143rd Global Star Party, Adrian.
Thank you for having me, Scott. And as you can see, I'm sitting stably with a camera that actually can see me. I'm using my phone as a key light. I'm always trying different things and trying new things. That being a part of Global Star Party has been somewhat of a journey, from showing a few pictures and David, your encouragement has, you continue to encourage me to just continue following my passion. I started out wanting to take these great night sky photos and enter them into contests and, see if things go good there. But eventually I took it back to what brought me to want to take images of the night sky in the first place. And that was, I love the night sky. I love being out there. I started learning about the night sky as a visual astronomer. I learned from other visual astronomers. Aperture is king. Real dark skies are important in order to see these things. And then I said, well, I don't live in an area that has really, really dark skies, and it's kind of hard sometimes to see things when there's clouds. So as I'll share a screen here, I'm just going to share the entire desktop. So my journey takes me to why I decided to start imaging the night sky. And I'll start with, I'll go to one of my favorite galleries that I set up, From Dusk Till Dawn, and do a real quick scan through, because it's as far as journey goes, this is where it all started. And I know I've done presentations like this before. When I do my presentations, I try to encourage folks to, chase your passion for imaging. I'm not as big a fan of imaging for money, quote unquote, although I have done some images that have been sold or, have been published. But this is where it all started, with slightly elongated stars. You can barely see the Milky Way. This was a Canon 30D. I think that camera is 20 years old now. And there is Sagittarius. And let's see how quickly I can fast forward. Yeah, we're going to just roll on down to something I've taken recently and in a different location. Let's go all the way to Okie-Tex, the last time I was there. We'll use this photo. And so now here's that same Milky Way with a little bit more detail. This is an as you see it image, and you've got more detail, more stars, and Sagittarius is hard to see, but there it goes. the same type of image and same not the same camera, using a slightly different camera. And if you can see here, I'm trying to look at M33 while this image is going on. So I looked in that area of the night sky. There is another picture I think that I have where I was able to take a more, so I was able to take one where I'm less of a ghost in that picture, looking directly at M33 with this refractor. And this is where my journey has taken me. This is where I am now, still wanting to do visual astronomy and see the night sky with my eyes, even see deep sky objects with my own eyes. But I still try and capture the beauty, the Milky Way especially, but I will capture the beauty of other things, such as maybe there's a storm that's happens to be in and near the Milky Way, and I can capture both at the same time. That was it was fun to capture. Or maybe I capture things that aren't so great, such as there's there's a bright red light over the horizon that's coming from an AT&T tower. Man-made light pollution is something I don't shy away from taking pictures of. So when I go back to an area like Michigan and I try and take pictures of the same thing, the light pollution is visible and I don't edit it out because this is what the camera sees. This is what I see. We just had a wonderful talk about seeing naked eye this galaxy, which happens to be the Andromeda galaxy. And even in pictures and even in places that may not be as dark, you can capture it. And M33, that elusive galaxy, sits right here as a little bitty glow. And then there's another star cluster, which I believe is NGC 752. So for me, it's not just about standing on a remote beach with Lake Huron over here and a planet, which I do believe be Jupiter, and trees over here. This is a favorite composition of mine. It's a beautiful photo, but there's other things such as a double cluster and even the heart and soul. There's dark nebula that are visible and all sorts of things there. And here's in the horizon, even though there's light pollution here, in the horizon, you can still see the California rising and the Pleiades beginning to glow. And so as I began to hone in skills of doing night sky photography, there were several things that I wanted to accomplish, and that is a beautiful place by day and doing bird photography, and then not being afraid to shoot the sun during sunset is a great way to spend time, other than if not just focusing on night sky photography. Maybe I'll practice something like panoramas here, where you have this area and then you have the moon rising, and then make plans to come back. Now this will go sort of in reverse, because I did take a panorama when it was dark in that same location, and as I flip through here, I will find that and show you. Here is that panorama, and here's that same area when the Milky Way's in the sky and when it's dark. Taken from slightly different angle, but there go those trees. The area where you saw the bird flying. I like to take scenes at places that they're dark and not just limit myself to astronomy pictures, but other pictures, just showing what I see. This area, Dark Sky Lodge and Tavern, I took the picture here and it's hanging in this store now, or in this restaurant. So it's whatever angle, here's a lighthouse, but because of the orientation of the Milky Way, I decided to image it with the window of the lighthouse, this oil cannon, here's the Milky Way all in a row, and this is the keeper's in, the water's behind us. And here's the sun, another sunset picture of that same place. So my journey takes me, as I scroll through these pictures, what you're seeing is how my journey just sort of takes me to different places and accidentally capturing some amazing things, like this aurora that was facing due north. And of course, this truck, which I no longer have because I have now started a new journey with a new vehicle. I put 228,000 miles on that truck, driving here and there, a lot of times driving a couple hours away to take these beautiful pictures in the thumb. And didn't want to stop at just Milky Way photography. What can I do about the moon? Can I get some reasonably sharp images of the moon? And I wound up getting a pretty sharp image. What happens if I try and make it a mineral moon? Or do I need to really explode the colors, or do I make them subtle so that it would be, the moon's natural detail shows, but some of these colors show where the where titanium is, or where rust is, where these seas, and getting this sort of detail out of a 600 millimeter lens with these settings, and noting these settings down because I've come back to these settings again and again, hand holding the camera and getting these sort of results in the moon, and balancing between artistic and just testing things out. This one was an award winner for RASC a couple of years ago because it was in the light pollution category. This is a farm area. This is a very bright Port Huron. More noise coming over here, other parts of Ontario. This is Lake Huron. So Lake Erie would be facing this way, but further south, and there's more light pollution as well. So the journey becomes, what is it that I want to show? Things like this image, where how much detail do we pay attention to? There's a cat's paw and the lobster claw, but this image wasn't taken down at the areas Okie-Tex. This is an hour away to the south in a lot of light pollution, but still able to get this sort of detail in a hazy night, from Lake Hudson Dark Sky Park in Michigan. How much can I push the camera so that I can see the various nebulae that are in this part of the Milky Way? There's a lot of dark nebulae. One's called the Pipe. I can't really picture it, but I'm sure if I look close enough, I would see it. You definitely see the lagoon, and you even see the Trifid, M20, M8. If we back out, you see the shape of the Crazy Horse. These are the things that I think about when I'm doing my imaging. And some images, maybe not so great. Other images, the Asabo River. And this is one of the few stacked images that I was able to get done right. There's even a little light pollution here, but some of this glowing, some of this HA that you're seeing, because I stacked the photos a minute of exposure each, and I stacked 10 of them, seeing a lot more detail closer to what I get with a single 4-minute composite of the Milky Way out at dark skies. So so the journey has been not only rewarding in that I've tried doing a few different types of photography that you're seeing here, but it's also led to the next great quote unquote idea. What else do I want to do? And things like this, where the first time I saw the Milky Way naked eye was in this location. And I was looking up at it a few years later. I go back to take a picture and I do a 2-minute composite, and to my surprise, more detail of the Milky Way pops out than I thought would show up. But and I certainly didn't see this much detail here. This is an approximate view. If this were a Bortle 1 site, naked eye, you would absolutely see this without needing a camera. But it represents my fascination. We'd call it obsession, but that sounds bad, so we'll call it fascination with Milky Way photography. And because of that, my aurora photography is thin. I do catch it every once in a while. I know the aurora really traps people's interest. Moon photography traps people's interest. Milky Way photography traps my interest, and not only the galactic core, but the Orion spur. I try and capture detail like this to say, well, the Orion spur is actually a very interesting place to capture Milky Way photography. It doesn't just end with this ginormous core hanging out over here. It is, of course, the brightest region, but Cygnus region, when it's setting, can be very impressive. The Orion part, when the zodiacal light is out, can be very impressive. And I highly recommend looking at that naked eye if you're in a dark enough place. The core is bright, and this, of course, this says 121 seconds. So back then I was doing 2-minute exposures of each. So you have a composite here that I was able to blend well enough, 2 minutes, to get the same detail that it took 10 1-minute stacks of images back in my home state to get that level of detail of the Milky Way. So dark skies, once again, it comes full circle. Dark skies do matter, but for different reasons. And that's because now when you're in a dark sky, you see even more detail in the area. This is Perseus is here, Cassiopeia is up here, Andromeda is here, and there's a galaxy. There's M33 again, NGC 752. And even now, if it comes in, even with me doing some noise reduction on the image, the galaxies come out, all of this data shows up, as we call it. But in the end, you're looking at an image, and the red light that you don't see with your naked eye is reflecting from camp at Okie-Tex, where all the red lights are on while people are looking at their instrumentation and using red flashlights, trying not to disturb their night vision. But there's so much of it that when you take the camera to it, you actually detect that it splashes all over the rocks. So that, really quick, in a nutshell, my journey in photography. I wanted to capture feelings, things that reflect. And now this picture is at a cottage up north where at the time the owner, the priest, was alive. When I took the photo, of course, that empty chair, photography nuts would look at it and say, get rid of that empty chair, clone it out. But time passes on, and now that priest is no longer there. So now I get to say in the photo, this empty chair is for the priest that used to live there. And it represents that, well, he is gone, but the sky remains forever. And as I continue my journey, there will be more challenges, more beautiful places, more places to drive along with the new car that I've got, and certainly more imaging, even if it follows some of the same ideas. It may inspire others, to try and do the same thing. It may continue to inspire me for years to come. And just like this little rainbow moonbow that I happened to catch over Lake Huron, just going out in the night sky, you never know what you might get, what you might find. If you love photography, give night sky photography a try. Use longer exposures. If you have a mirrorless camera, look into the mirrorless camera to see what you're getting. Composites are nice. Even shoot at the sun every once in a while. As long as you have the appropriate cloud cover, it acts as a filter. And don't be afraid to shoot when the moon is out. Don't be afraid to shoot when there's light pollution. You know, don't be afraid to try different things, even if you're getting off of work. I took this picture with my iPhone, and then I think I turned around and took pictures with my regular camera because I thought it was a beautiful color of sky and a chance to take the picture. Light pollution was really bright, but I still got a little bit of Milky Way over this oak tree. So there are a lot of opportunities to just say, don't take a picture. But for me, the opportunity to be out under the night sky, you know, and here we are, Lake Hudson, one of the earlier places where I did a lot of photography. I still go out there. I still make the journey to all of these places, to this cabin. And so the journey continues. And as you can tell, the Milky Way itself makes a journey, and maybe in another presentation, because it's time for me to hand it off, I'll talk about the journey that the Milky Way makes across our skies. But as always, I'm going to end with this particular photo and do what these two gentlemen, you can hardly see. This is my friend Jim Forrester over here that you can hardly see with the arrow. Now you can see him.
I see him.
And my friend Nate Murphy, we go to Okie Tech. We were watching the storms, and I captured them as they watched the storms and captured the Milky Way hiding behind here. You know, it's as beautiful as Scott, as beautiful as this picture might be to you, it was even more beautiful to be there to experience it.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't you know, you can rely on photos, or you can look at a photo op and say, oh, this will make $1 million. Just capture what you see the photo, then take the photo and enjoy where you are. Even if it's not perfect, it's still a memory or an opportunity to get better at presenting what you want to present to others, or what you want to capture, so that it helps you remember that night. That was a pretty magical night with that storm and it getting clear enough for the Milky Way to be visible on the other side. So that was I leave you all with this photo, and yep, it is time. I think I've gone a little longer than my time, but I will pass it over to our next presenter.
Yep.
And I'm probably going to go and eat dinner, but thank you all once again for having me on Global Star Party. And here's to continuing that journey, you know, looking at the night sky, taking photos, discovering new things, trying things that seem impossible, and never being discouraged if, you know, by cloud conditions, sky conditions. Just keep trying, try some different things and see what you can come up with.
Excellent.
Yeah.
David. Yeah, I
Just-
knew that David wanted to comment on some of these, because isn't his night sky photography, it just gets better and better.
Yeah, I not only does it get better and better, but I now like to think of Adrian as the Ansel Adams of astrophotography.
Ooh,
It is
That is high praise.
that's high praise. Very good.
Yeah. I do intend to continue pushing my own boundaries. I know some great astrophotographers. I know some folks who, you know, they they do the imaging a certain way. I do appreciate their work, and some might be watching Global Star Party right now. However, my own take is the night sky, without the night sky there, what would we be imaging? We've got a great astro imager. I see you on, Ron. Without the Rosette Nebula, what would you take a picture of? And without the universe, what could we do? We would have to turn and continue to do bird photography because there wouldn't be a universe to see. Because we can see that universe, we're able to bring those photons down. We're able to bring the photon of the veil that you've got behind you and share with the public. This is real. It's not, fake photos. I heard something, Dave, Scott, about fake photos. And I say, it's, if the object does exist and we're bringing it out, it's a real photo. It's, it's just how we bring that object out. Now, if you take the moon and you make it appear as though it's sitting on top of the Washington Monument and the moon is bigger than the Washington Monument, there may be some questions you can ask, but I tend to go for exactly what I'm seeing. So it's all up to interpretation, but these things are very real and definitely I consider myself a space journalist. So I capture what I see and I try and present it, not too overly, image, not too light either, to where you can't see those structures.
What a cool idea that is, space journalist. That's a real
journalist. That's
yeah, be a space journalist. Don't be is this real? You say, yes, I was there. I could take you to the place. And I usually try to take two types of photos before I turn it over to you. I take two types of photos. One, how my eyes see it. I actually try and make the photo look the way my eyes see it. The other, I try and bring out some of the structures that are sitting there, Rosette in the Orion side of the Milky Way, or M8, in the galactic core, or the North American sitting in Cygnus, or all the stuff in Andromeda and M33. I try and make sure those are visible when you're looking at the Cassiopeia and Perseus wings. So, and the Northern Hemisphere. I've still got 2 more sections to go. I got to get to the Southern Hemisphere to see the Magellanic Clouds and the Southern Cross region. That'll be a special Global Star Party when I can get to those. All right.
Great.
Let's move
Thank
on.
you, Adrian. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you all for having me.
Okay. Well, we have, we're happy to bring on yet another very talented astrophotographer. I like this kind of astrophotography segment that's going on right now. But Ron Breacher surprises me and I'm sure blows away all of his friends with his postings of his latest deep sky works. But you have quite a journey yourself, Ron, and so we're going to turn it over to you to let you describe it.
Okay, thanks for having me on. I will let me share my screen and then we'll go from there. Just 1 second. All right, let's go to the slideshow. Come on now. There we go. So, whenever I get an invitation to a global star party, the first thing I do is 2 or 3 times maybe read over the theme of the star party, which Scott always includes when he invites us, what the theme of the next star party is. And here's the important parts of the theme that I read this time. As we gaze at the night sky, we're not just observers, we're participants in an ongoing cosmic drama. And it's an ever-evolving journey of exploration and inspiration. And that kind of made me reflect on my own journey. And every astronomer I know, and I love to talk to people at star parties and so on, every astronomer I know has what I call a creation story. There was a point in time at which we weren't astronomers, and something happened maybe more than one thing happened, and now we're astronomers. And it's really fun sometimes to hear people's story. I'm going to hope that you'll indulge me while I quickly tell you my story. And so for my journey talk, I'm going to talk about my own creation story, tell you what I'm doing now, and talk about what's next. And part of my creation story, as you're going to hear, is this book, Night Watch by Terence Dickinson. And I think my very first edition of Night Watch was the first or second edition. I don't still have that because I keep giving this book away to new astronomers. So many people started with this book. But let's come back to that in a minute. And after I tell you what I'm doing now, I'm going to speculate on what might be next for me. And it's all just musing. So this is Gail and our dog Sweetie standing with me in front of my observatory, my happy place, the best man cave ever. And this is part of my creation story too, I guess, because this was a 50th birthday present to me from Gail. And so although it wasn't right at the beginning of my journey, it completely changed my journey. And I really want to acknowledge Gail. You'll see here how she plays quite an important role in all of this. So my creation journey, it's really kind of like a stool with three legs. The house, the family, and Night Watch. So let me tell you about each of those. So in 1997, Gail was pregnant with our second child, who you're going to meet in just a minute. And we needed a bigger house. And this is the house that we bought. We bought a house in the country, and our first night in the house was on New Year's Eve, 1997, going into 1998. And with the house came a new bank and a new mortgage and a new credit card. And the old bank contacted me and said, well, you've got all these Visa points. Before we close out all your accounts, when we settle up your mortgage, is there anything that you would like with your Visa points? And I got a toy train. I had a son at this time. My son Todd was 3 years old or so. So I got a toy train, something for the kitchen, and what I thought was a toy telescope. But it wasn't a toy telescope. It was a 4.5-inch reflector on a wooden mount, an equatorial mount. And so that's the first leg of the stool. I was able to get outside with that telescope, and I saw the moon. That kind of blew me away. And I saw Saturn, but everything was pretty rickety. Enter family. This is my daughter, Chelsea. I said you were going to meet her in a minute. She wasn't always this beautiful, and in particular, this quiet. When she was a baby, she was colicky, and she used to scream all night. And our new house had a big, long driveway, and it was out in the country where it was dark and quiet. And I used to put Chelsea over my arm and walk her up and down the driveway in my bathrobe and work boots, walking up and down with her in the cold, and she's going to sleep, and I'm getting more and more hooked on the sky. Well, then at Christmas that year, so now it's 1998, December 1998, my business partner gave me this book, Night Watch. And I ate it for breakfast. I read it from beginning to end really quickly. And I was particularly struck by chapter 4. I looked for this, but I don't have a copy of the original anymore because I've given them all away. But chapter 4 was called Choosing and Using a Telescope. And there was a sidebar article called Junk Scopes from Asia. And it had a picture of my telescope on it. That's when I realized that rickety, that wobbly moon and fuzzy Saturn and fuzzy Jupiter, that wasn't really me being a bad astronomer. It was that my equipment wasn't really up to task. And I got a bonus a couple of weeks later, my first bonus, one of my first bonuses since starting my own company. And I used it to buy a real telescope. It was an Ultima 2000. And now here we are. So that was about 1999, 1998, 99. And here we are now 25 years later. So let's quickly look at this trajectory. I thought you'd be interested to see the background here. It's my log, my observing log, and I'm not going to go through all of this stuff with you. But I do want to talk a little bit about logging and sketching and a little bit about the story of the genesis of my website. So logging and sketching, I said the background here is a couple of pages out of my log. And I did a handwritten log every time I observed for about 9 or 10 years. And I also included sketches. This is my first sketch. It's the blue snowball nebula, and I was looking at it. I was at a star party, and I was up the ladder of my 20-inch. And when I look at it now, it just looks like a fried egg. But you know, we all have to start somewhere, and that was literally my very first sketch. Now, I got better at sketching, but I pretty quickly moved on to astrophotography. And I want to just tell you a little bit about where AstroDoc came from. I didn't come up with AstroDoc at all. It was my wife, Gail, that came up with AstroDoc. And it wasn't until 2013, so I'd already been at this for a while. And she gave me some vanity license plates for my car. And there's the license plate right there. I didn't actually launch my website, which is called astrodoc.ca, until about 5 months later. So it was Gail that came up with that moniker. And since launching the website in April 2014, I've had more than 350,000 page views. So thank you very, very much for looking at that. It makes me feel good when people look at my pictures. And I know, you know, that when you post something on Facebook, compression makes it so that you don't really get a great view of the picture. You don't see it the way I want you to see it. So if you see one of my posts, click on the photo and see it the way I want you to see it. This is the website. It's astrodoc.ca. And one of the things that I do is that with every post, I post all of my processing details. So that kind of helps people learn a little bit. I love to teach. Okay, so what am I doing now? Well, I'm producing images. I'm producing lots of images. And I do that mainly for fun. As Adrian mentioned, it's a different thing if you're going out shooting pictures for money. I certainly sell my pictures. I sell a lot of pictures, but I'm shooting them for myself. And a lot of the pictures I sell, I shot years and years ago. I shoot them for myself. There's just nothing like it for me than getting out there. And I should mention, you know, a lot of times when I'm imaging, when it's not cold out, I get my visual telescope out. I am still a diehard visual imager and regularly have people over to look through my 20-inch obsession, and I have a homemade 10-inch job that I love. So I said producing images. This is one of my images, and it's on the cover of the newest version of Night Watch. So talk about full circle. Everything started for me with Night Watch, and now my own photo of M42 is on the cover of the latest edition, and such an honor. Wow. Terence Dickinson, he died before the book was actually released, but I know I learned that this was one of his favorite shots of this region and that he was involved in choosing it. And boy, what an honor that is. I love to demo equipment, and the latest thing I'm demoing is this gigantic 14-inch Edge HD. I'll show you a photo at the end of the presentation that's a work in progress that I'm capturing with this really big telescope. And I love to teach. Some of you might know that with Warren Keller, he was my mentor and teacher in astrophotography, but now he's my partner along with Pete Prue. And we started this website called Masters of Pix Insight, and we do workshops once or twice a month on image processing. and also there's subscription stuff, but there is a ton of free content there. So if you get a chance, check it out. It's mastersofpixinsight.com. And of course, I love to write. I remember it was around 2015 or 2016 when my very first photo got published, or first article got published in Sky and Telescope. And you know, Astronomy magazine, Sky and Telescope, BBC Sky at Night. I've been reading these magazines since the late 1990s. They have been an inspiration to me, and the thought that I could now write for one of these magazines, and even have my photo on the cover. This is my first Sky and Tel magazine cover. What an honor! Such an honor. I can't tell you. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, and totally loving it. So what do I want to do in the future? Well, I want to see a total eclipse of the sun. I've never seen one. I've come close a couple of times. Where I live, we're going to get 99.4%, but that's partial.
It's still partial.
So I have a couple of places within a 2 to 3 hour drive that can get me into the path of totality on the day of the eclipse. So hopefully I can take this one off my bucket list. I really want to look through some big telescopes. When I say big, I mean like big professional telescopes. I got to see Mount Palomar from a distance when I was in California. I've got a friend who works at Kitt Peak. So come on, guys, I want to look through one of your big telescopes. I want to be able to image the southern sky, but I'm willing to wait because I really like being hands-on with my equipment. But when I don't feel like operating my own equipment anymore, or I move away, or the light pollution just gets too bad, then I'm going to get some time on some equipment in the southern sky. And you know, I've been talking about publishing a book of my images based on my website content. All the content is there. It might be called something like Postcards from Space, except you know, that's all still up in the air. But I think all the content, like I say, it's right on my website already. And Starmus. So Starmus is on my bucket list of places to go, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. Number one is I can be a great stunt double for Brian May if he ever needs an astronomy stunt double, or even possibly a guitar double, although he's a way better guitar player than me. Second of all, one of the founders of Starmus, Sir Harry Kroto, Professor Sir Harry Kroto, was one of my supervisors on my PhD committee, and I used to babysit for one of his kids. So there's all kinds of reasons why I want to get to Starmus one of these days. I think it would just be a hoot. So that's my goals. And you know, my wife always reminds me that I can do really anything that I set my mind to. The sky is the limit. And this is in my very near future. This is about 3.5 hours only on Messier 82. I'm going to be acquiring a total of about 20 hours, and I think I'm up to about 12 or 13 now. I'm imaging as we speak. So thank you for indulging me. I hope one day we sit down and I get to hear your creation story, because they're all fun. Thanks, Scott.
Wonderful, wonderful, great presentation. So, okay, we have Cesar Brolo up next down in Argentina, but let me
Bye for now.
Put up
Hi.
my.
How are you?
I was going to put up my iPad here, since I have that also connected here. But Ron, I really appreciate all the work that you do, and all the help that you give to people that want to take that voyage through astrophotography. You've really got to be changing some lives for the better. So
It's so much fun. It's a privilege.
Yeah, that's very cool. Thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
so
See you
much.
next time.
Okay, next time.
Aaron.
Okay, so our next speaker is Cesar Brolo, and Cesar is, as I mentioned, down in Argentina. He works for Optica Sirocco and is a telescope retailer, but he's also an optician. He's made his own telescopes. I believe that he and his father actually built observatories, and he is a well-known individual in Argentina in the amateur astronomy scene. He loves showing people how they can get into astronomy even from their own backyard or from their balconies. And so I'm not sure how he's set up tonight, but let's bring him on.
Yes, fortunately, I don't have clouds in this moment.
Oh, so a clear sky.
Yes, I am in the rooftop of the building. It's
Okay.
127 meters high here. It's more clear, it's more affordable and great to make some astro pictures, astro photos. And I'll share my screen and a
Okay.
live image of Orion, because in the last star party it was impossible to show you something, because I remember that they have like a big rainbow of reflection between the buildings, and now I have to show you much better quality. I have some problems here because one of my accessories connecting the camera with the telescope have a border not black, and this produce a small reflection. But despite this, I'm clear now this, and we are going to take some pictures live of Orion Nebula. Despite this reflection, we can will in live and stacking of Orion Nebula picture, and in few seconds we can have some details that in the single pictures we can see. For example, let me try if it's possible. For example, start to appear this area of this dark nebula that cover this part of the nebula, the bright part of the nebula. And two, I took a picture of Tarantula Nebula earlier. Well, while we having this live stack of Orion Nebula, I can show you how I have the Tarantula Nebula. Let me check if I can. Yes, I opening another application, and as soon as possible I change the sharing of the screen. I'm going to open another program. I'm changing. I can see you filming your office. Okay, share screen. We are going to see. Which is I know it's see. Okay. I try, Scott, to process something very short of the picture. that I took earlier. Oh, I don't know if this. This is an Orion Nebula of today, but no, I need another. This. And we can check how is going, how is cooking the Orion Nebula in our captures. Now we will return to the Orion Nebula live stack. You can see more details, maybe. Is the nebula now have 3 minutes near to 4 minutes of exposure. And we can have a great picture to process, and we are stacking live now. And this is, maybe it's not so good to make a picture of Orion, but it's great for a show where we can, for us, or we can share this kind of tools like a live stack. It's great to show in shows like now, or with friends, or sharing details that maybe in a city or the colors of a nebula, we can't see the details of the different colors. Here we have more details now than earlier, and we can get more details. While the nebula is increasing in details because we are stacking and stacking pictures one over another one, I return to try to show you the two that okay. I understand my okay. No. Okay. For today is sure that we are going to see, look that when I started to make the exposures, I don't have these details of Orion. The idea, we have now 6 minutes of exposure, and the idea is going to have this shape that we know of Orion Nebula, and we are having more and more detail. This is new. This is new because it's a product of stacking pictures on pictures. As sometimes I don't like use the live stack only for make a picture, but it's a great tool for this that I tell you, that for show in a live image how is increasing the light in a nebula, in a cluster, details. Now, for example, we can have more clearly the difference between the Messier 43 and Messier 42. And if I still talking, why It's like, you know, it's like a cake in the oven. It's something like we can see how it's increasing and the shape of the nebula. Look that we have now 7 minutes, 41 seconds, 46. And this is something that many times what we say that is so magic. It's so magic that we can make this kind of image. Orion is a easy nebula, and I encourage to the people to start to Orion in the field of nebulas because it's a nebula for south and north hemisphere. It's the brightest nebula in the sky, and it's the door. It's the door to take confidence to make more and more image of the sky, especially deep sky. It's something like well, if we having time to make a better picture, and this picture we can do it much better because we can process. It's really great, really great. I have while it's boring to see the same pictures, and while I still talking about another thing, I have a very small presentation from my WhatsApp from my phone. Sharing. While the Orion is cooking in the oven, I'll show you some pictures that I have. Hi, Marcelo.
Hello.
Let me show you.
Yes. There we go. I like your shirt. Okay. So this is your setup.
Yes, actually, this is the setup. I'm sit here.
Mm-hmm. So is that a tablet?
I use my phone to drive the Exos 100. Here is my living room because I start watching the show. This is the part of David Eicher from my living room. This was today with the AC-90 Explorer Scientific that many times I put in the street and take some pictures of the sun, and with the very easy because I use the cell phone, and I encourage the people, especially the kids. This is the telescope that I sold more for kids, and it's a great telescope because it's easy to find the image with the cell phone adapter. Look, it's a me in the front of my store, and this is the picture that I took today of the sun with a single filter, solar filter, safe solar filter. And today we watch this one is easy to see another sunspot, but four sunspots in a line.
Yes.
And this was a big one.
That's a really big one.
And we are preparing this Friday encounter in our friends, staff, San Miguel Observatory. Well, this was my picture of Orion last week, Scott. While we was talking, I said, "Oh, it was impossible." No, it was impossible. Of course, that is not a perfect picture, but look that in the middle of the city, I have M42, M42, M43. This part of the nebula that is amazing that I could, between two buildings, was very interesting to have something. Well, let's return. Let's go and return to see how is the Orion Nebula. Look that. We have more details maybe. It's fun how we can have something great where we starting to very dark image, and now we have more and more details. Actually, we have more than 2 minutes of exposure, and we can go and have more details. And this is now the live image of Orion. I can try go to another maybe Tacarina, maybe. I don't know if I have my go-to precisely, but we can try. Well, I change first of all, I close live stack. And now I am in a really live single full. You can see how I can show you how I move in the telescope. It's totally real. It's not artificial intelligence, nothing. It's a telescope with a camera, with a mount. And well, I'll choose K-hole nebula, maybe. We are going. Eta Carina. Without promising something special, I try to make a picture of Eta Carina, a live picture. I don't know, maybe I'll go into the same area, and I prepare for you next week the picture of a tarantula that I took earlier. The telescope is going. Something that we can see is that it's so bright. So bright. Orion Nebula. Let me put stronger again. Okay. This area is really full of stars. And I'll check if I can center in, because I need to say that this technique is very easy. It's only change exposure to now. Well, it's too much again.
There you go.
Yeah. It is a
That was
little
kinda quick.
more. Yes.
That's cool.
Look, that area is so strong, and if you have this kind of trouble, me now that my go-to is not precisely aligned, I can try, no problem. I did only the finder because I have more field. I centering this visually.
It's looking good. Now, Caesar, do you invite guests to come up and see this setup when you're doing this kind of imaging? Do you show people how easy it is?
Yes, maybe you can see, you can listen the noise of the motors.
Actually, I cannot hear it. It's too
Yes,
quiet.
yes.
It's quiet.
We are traveling. This is like a voyage. Yes, in the
It's
area.
like Star Trek. I'm curious, Caesar. Do you bring people to see to visit your balcony astronomy? Do you ever have
In the
guests over or
in
customers to
the
come?
yes, in the rooftop.
Yeah. Oh, that's
In the
cool.
rooftop, yes, because when somebody live in this area, yes, sure.
Oh, I see a globular cluster,
Yes,
open cluster
this
there.
cluster.
Yeah.
Jesus, I lost the because I'm here.
There it is.
First of all, yes, put a velocity, lower velocity.
Which cluster is
Yeah,
this?
yeah. We are.
Which cluster is this?
I think that the name it's really. I think that this the cluster near to the nebula. I don't remember if maybe it's 55, 67. My memory, sorry, but it's in the area.
Okay.
We can. It's an open cluster, very
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
It's beautiful though.
Yeah, beautiful.
Looks like
Let me.
pile of diamonds, poured out.
Nice. Beautiful cluster. Look that. Very nice cluster. Maybe each star is with no more bright light. Maybe 9 magnitude. I don't know. Very nice. And if you see the color of the cluster is more with more red stars like another ones. Very interesting. I put less gain to have more contrast, but it's very fine, this cluster. It's open, but I'm not sure that is the cluster that I say, because we can try with livestock. Okay, here. With less gain. Now we have a better image. but I don't sure which cluster is, because we are in the area, but it's something that I can see in the totally is blind this to my finder totally. It's something that is impossible to see in this area. In this area, I remember I'll be having remember my the shape, because it's very particular, the shape. I need to know who exactly is. Let me try if I have. Remember that all of this is live.
Yeah.
Can be failed.
And what's happening now?
we are in the where are we? We are in the area of Karina.
Ah, okay.
Yes. But well, no, it's too much for for tonight. It's an area full of star, but my maybe yes, I try if I can open the this another one, this Tarantula Nebula in 1 minute more, because it's the time. I don't know how many minutes I tried this, but well, we are returning to Cyril. Okay. Captures. Today. I think that yes. Okay. Yes, yeah. Tarantula Nebula from today. Let me show you. Oh my God, sorry. You can see, and I'll try to stretch a little more.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Auto stretching. Look that. Of course that it's a this is the nebula, and of course that is not the best way to make a picture in this way of live stacking. And this is because we have a lot of artifacts, but you can have, yes, you can have a image, a live image in minutes. And it's so interesting nebula. Maybe we can make something. But well, I don't try more that I show you this, because this was took earlier, but I can make a decent picture for the next week of the Tarantula Nebula. But the idea is, of course,
You got the data. You got the data there.
yes,
So,
yes,
mhm.
absolutely. And the nebula is very interesting because it's you can see a smaller nebula than Orion and maybe darker, not so bright like Orion, but it's I don't remember how many times it's more a long distance than Orion, and it's so big and big, Tarantula Nebula, that if you have at the same distance of Orion Nebula, Tarantula Nebula, you can have you never had a night because it's so bright and so big, because it's a nebula that is in the big Magellanic Cloud. It's in another galaxy, it's in our accessory galaxy. This is very interesting. Sorry, but the quality of the the you know, I don't remember how I can show you with the like a zoom of this, but it's very interesting, really very interesting. Well, this is all for tonight.
Okay.
Sorry that failed a little my go-to because I don't put the precisely the alienation, but for next week we can try and we can return to the RockTube and watch more live image. We can. No, I stopped the live stack of Orion. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds
but
very good.
yes, maybe we can make a fast, process. But I'm more interested, and I say to the people, use the camera with the live stack because you can use a planetary cheaper camera and make image of nebulas, and this is very interesting. Well, thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Cesar, and
It's a
best
pleasure.
regards to you
Thank
and
you
your
very
entire
much.
staff down there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So our next speaker is young Naveen. Naveen is living down in Texas these days, and he was originally from, I think, in the Virginia region. He joined an astronomy club at quite a young age and has stuck with astronomy the entire time. And he's back now talking to us about the history of exoplanet exploration. And so, Naveen, let me bring you on. It's a pleasure to have you on Global Star Party. There we go.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me
How are you
here.
doing? How's
I'm
everything
doing
going?
good. How about you?
Good. I'm good. Yeah, the school
Good
is
to hear.
treating you well, and you're enjoying your studies.
So far, yes. School's been very good here, down here in Texas. Weather's been nice.
Yeah.
Skies have been good. And so let's get into my presentation first. So I'm gonna start my
Okay.
screen share.
Okay.
Let's see. Just share my screen. And let's go to the presentation. So can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the great history of exoplanet exploration. And the first thing that we're going to go and do is the first event that happened in 1984. So this was the first planetary disk that was observed, and this is like an image of dust and gas around the star known as Beta Pictoris, and it was taken with the DuPont 2.5-meter telescope in the Las Campanas Observatory in Chile, in the southern hemisphere. And this is a 2.5 arcs, 25 arc second exposure. And this was back in April of 1984. And that's a while back. And our next event that we're going to go to is the first actual exoplanet that was discovered is in January of 1992. And the two astronomers that discovered this was Alexander Wilsigzon. I'm sorry, I can't say that. Like, and then American astronomer Dale Frail announced the discovery of two rocky planets in PSR B1 257 a plus 12, which is a pulsar in the constellation of Virgo. And these rocky planets are technically bombarded with radiation from like a dead neutron star that they orbit around, which means that these planets can't really support like organic life like humans or any sort of like other life technically. And as we go into our third event, which is the first exoplanet found around like a main sequence star, which is in October of 1995. And the two astronomers that found this were Didier Queloz and Michael Mayor, at which they announced the discovery of the first planet orbiting the sequence star known as Pegasi 51. And the planet, technically, for reference, is half the size of Jupiter. And it technically just grazes around the surface of like its primary sequence star. And which is very interesting. And it's something astronomers are still like wondering about and like researching about in like recent days so far. And our next event is the first transiting exoplanet discovered using the transiting method in 1999. And two research teams led by David Charbonneau and Greg Henry, which were independently observed a planet orbiting across the star HD 209458 in the constellation of Pegasus. And this observation allows astronomers to analyze the atmosphere of the planet, which contains water and oxygen, actually, which is similar to Earth because that makes a planet habitable if it has liquid water and oxygen. And this is actually like the first planet found within the habitable zone, which was found on April 14, 2001. And astronomers actually from Geneva University in Switzerland discovered this planet HD 28485b, and it is technically the same distance from the Earth orbits from the sun. So technically, us here on Earth and the distance to the sun and that planet is the same exact distance from its parent star and to that planet, and it orbits like the same distance from that star to that planet, which is similar to the Earth, which is which is a coincidence. It's very interesting. And this planet, for reference, is 6 times the size of Jupiter. And let's go into our next event. And first light from an actual exoplanet, which is discovered in March of 2005. And astronomers that discover a direct infrared light observation from an exoplanet for the first time from planets HD 209458b and TRES-1 using the Spitzer Space Telescope. And this was one of the first times that they actually used the Spitzer Space Telescope for exoplanet research and studying. And this is going to start a new era of exoplanet exploration using spectroscopy and infrared technologies, which is very cool. And that's right now in the 21st century right now, which is very amazing. And this is the first time that astronomers were actually able to see a light emanating from a exoplanet. And let's go move on to our next event. And this is the first map of an exoplanet in May of 2007. And the same astronomer, David Charbonneau, and another fellow astronomer, Heather Knudsen, used the Spitzer Space Telescope again to create the first map of an exoplanet. And this is very interesting because mapping out exoplanets is kind of a tough thing. And Spitzer is is very crucial, and it's going to play a huge role in like this study of exoplanets. And the next event, as we go on to, is first exoplanets observed using spectroscopy. And this is eight planets HD 29458b and HD 189,733b are the first planets to have their spectra observed by the Spitzer Space Telescope. And these readings provide information about each planet's atmosphere, which again, it's very interesting. You can see the type of atmosphere they have, like what like the type of gases they have, whether they have an ozone layer or not, which is very interesting in general. And that's something that will play into finding many more exoplanets in the future. And next event. Now we're going to use the Kepler Space Telescope, and Kepler contributed to a lot in like this field of exoplanet exploration, and it comes with many crucial, interesting discoveries, which will help contribute to find exoplanets. And NASA and the Kepler's first rocky exoplanet is called Kepler 10b, and it is, for reference, it is 1.4 times the size of Earth. And this is an image of that planet, how it would look like. And this was in January of 2011. And next event. And this is the first exoplanet cloud map created, which is in September of 2013. And this is using data from the Spitzer Space Telescope, which astronomers create the first exoplanet cloud map. And this is cloud mapping a planet which is 50% larger than the Jupiter, called Kepler 7b. And this is an image of that planet being cloud mapped. And next to that. And then this is the first Earth-sized planet found inhabitable zone in April 2014. And this is similar to Earth because it's the similar size to Earth, and it's Earth-sized also, and it's got the similar climate to Earth and stuff. And it's called it was the first Earth-sized exoplanet where liquid water could exist. It was called Kepler 186f, and it was just 10% larger than the Earth and 500 light years away. Not that far. It's fairly close to us. It's a similar Earth, not too far from us, which is very insane. And yeah. And Kepler again, after that, discovers Earth's bigger, older cousin in July of 2015. And Earth's bigger, older cousin is known as Kepler 452, has made its debut to the public in the Earth, to us. And the size of this planet is around 1.6 times larger than the Earth. And it has a claim of only having 385 days to orbit, which is similar to our 365 days that Earth takes to orbit the sun. But its nickname is Super Earth because it's the bigger, older, gigantic cousin of Earth. And next one. And this is technically the closest exoplanet known to man right now. And this is discovered in August of 2016. And this is a rocky planet that is discovered near the star of Proxima Centauri. And this new planet is called Proxima b. And this would orbit a star that would allow liquid water to form on its surface. And we don't exactly know if this planet has liquid water on its surface, but it's claimed to have liquid water on its surface. And scientists are still doing research on whether this Proxima b planet actually has liquid water. And next one. And actually, something that's very mouth-watering and crazy is that 7 Earth-sized planets found orbiting a red dwarf star found in February of 2017 is NASA discovers 7 Earth-sized planets orbiting a star called TRAPPIST-1, which is only 40 light years away, and it's also in the habitable zone. So 7 of these Earth-sized planets, or similar sized Earth-sized planets, and which are habitable, which would have liquid water, maybe, which we don't know. But these are all 7 habitable Earths, which is literally mind-boggling. which is something we've never discovered before. And it's also closer to us also. And officially on the planet counter hits 4,000 exoplanets on June 14th, 2019. And NASA officially confirmed the discovery of 4,000 exoplanets. And NASA actually, I think, made this video on mapping all 4,000 exoplanets and like this diagram here. This is like an image of it. And it's it's a very cool video. So I recommend you guys to all see it. It's a very cool video on all the exoplanets that were discovered. And the next one, and right now, the current times, near current times, we're in the age of discovery, guys. And we've officially hit 5,000 exoplanets so far in March of 21, March, according to March 21, 2022. And the count of exoplanets hits 5,000 after 30 years of exploration, which represents a journey of exoplanet exploration, which this itself is a journey. 5,000 after 30 years. And we're still going to keep going. We don't see any signs of stopping. That's how science is going right now. And before I wrap up, I just want to show you guys a meme. This is a very interesting meme because it's a artist concept. Om nom nom nom. It's a star eat planet world. And this is star called WASP 12b. And this is something NASA released saying we're out there, and this is celebrating 20 years of exoplanets. Actually, this is a special special meme that NASA released. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. That's all I have for today.
Okay. All right. That's great. Okay. Naveen, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you back on to Global Star Party.
Yes.
I'm curious that you seem to be very, very interested in the exoplanet research. Do you hope to participate in that professionally, or maybe in a research project when you get to university?
Maybe that's what my plan is, but yeah, I'm looking into like opportunities in like exoplanet like research in like that field.
Yeah.
And I might start in that field like soon. Yeah.
Soon. Okay, well, that's great. Well, there's a lot of citizen science programs that, of course, you can get involved with, TESS being one of them.
Yeah.
So, and I know that you have a unistellar telescope, and that.
Yeah, I'm aware of the unistellar citizen science. I'm aware of that.
Yeah. And they have also been able to measure the dip in stellar brightness from a passing exoplanet. Have you been able to participate in any of that so far?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm trying to get myself into it. I'm getting hooked up into it, and I'm learning. I'm getting my way into it.
Okay.
And I will get my way into it.
I'm
And that will
sure
be
you will.
soon. Like a few
All right.
months. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Nevin. Okay.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you anytime, of course, so.
It's been a pleasure.
Yep.
And
Okay.
hope to see you guys soon.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks so much. All right, so let's see. Our next speaker is Marcelo Souza. Marcelo is down in Brazil, and he is the editor of Skies Up magazine, which was launched originally by David Levy and Wendy Levy. And it's great that Marcelo keeps the magazine alive and with lots of participants from around the world. So this is a global magazine, and it happens to be free. So, and Marcelo is also very much involved in astronomy outreach, the preservation of dark skies down in Brazil. I think he leads the largest and most active astronomy outreach programs in South America. So it's a pleasure to have you back on, Marcelo. You've been on many times, and how are things going in your part of the world?
Thank you, Scott, for the invitation. Nice to see you, Dr. David Levy, and all the participants here. Ever is a great pleasure to be here. Né? Here now, the year began in Brazil, né? Because for us the year only begin after Carnival. Then Carnival already finished, then we say here in Brazil that the year already began. Né? Then now everything is working here in Brazil. This is something that is different from other places in the world. Né? For us, the year officially begins in January 1st, but in reality, only after Carnival that everything begins to work here in Brazil. I will share my screen here because I choose today to talk about the James Webb Telescope because I'm studying the telescope, the results obtained, and the work of the telescope. Because this year the topic of the Global Science Opera will be the James Webb Telescope. Let me see if it will work here for me. This is a draw showing how that we need to take care of the space around the Earth, because we have so many satellites and space junks in orbit that in few years I don't know what will happen. No? You have so many things around in orbit of the Earth, but I'm showing this image because I will not talk about satellites in orbit of the Earth, but about the James Webb Telescope. And I showed this image because only to show the difference, because the James Webb Telescope is a different orbit. He is not orbiting the Earth like the Hubble. Right? James Webb Telescope, I will show now. This is difference between the mirror of the Hubble and the mirror of the James Webb Telescope.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's
That's a nice visualization right there.
Yeah, you can compare with a person here, and it is a big telescope that we send to space, and something that is fantastic is that I think that is the difference between, as we already had other space telescopes in different orbits, and but this as it is the biggest space telescope, many people now are trying to understand these positions in space that we also use to have the space telescopes there. The reason that you have space telescope is that part of the infrared, the ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, didn't arrive in the surface of the Earth, whether it's come from the sun, from the space, because the atmosphere protects us. Then we need to send telescopes to space to analyze the objects in these wavelengths. Here another image showing different parts of the infrared we can see from the Earth atmosphere. This is the reason that we had a project with Sophia, that is an airplane that they use to take pictures. We already sent many space telescopes produced and sent to space. We got images from the gamma rays until the microwaves from space, with many different kinds of telescope. I have here that shows more space telescopes that already were sent to space. Then we have informations in different wavelengths in different frequencies. Then we now have conditions to study the universe in all the frequencies. And this was the Sophia that I said, and the Hubble, Chan, the Fermi, the space. But where is the James Webb? These are 5 places in the solar system that is called the Lagrange points. Lagrange positions that are places where you can have synchronous movements with the Earth. The L1, L2, you have L3, L4, L5, and is some of them you have the forces, the gravitational force from the sun and from the Earth. You can have the same conditions for both. Then is a stable position, and in other ones like L2, you have the gravitational force from the sun and from the Earth, and both allow that works like a centrifugal force, a centripetal force, and then the satellite in L2 can follow the Earth, right, in the orbit around the sun. Then the James Webb is in position L2. Here is an image that shows this, how that they have equilibrium between the force, gravitational force. This is a potential, gravitational potential. And we had the others, and we yet have other space telescopes in other of these Lagrange positions. One of these is Soho, that is L1, that we have images of the sun. But he is orbiting in synchrony with the Earth around the sun in position L1, that is located 1,500,000 kilometers far from Earth. It's the same distance for the L2, approximately 1,500,000 kilometers far from Earth. But all the satellite, the space telescopes, they are not in the L1 position. They are orbiting around this position. I have an image that you show. But we have another space telescope, solar space telescopes, that are the stereo, that they have 2 different space telescopes. One is located in almost in the Earth orbit, but behind the Earth, and the other ahead of the Earth, taking picture images of the sun. Then you have the Soho, that is following the Earth in the orbit around the sun, and you have the stereo that one is located behind the other ahead of the Earth. Then we have daily images of the sun from different positions. And I'm talking about this, but we have others in L1 position. And the L2 is now we have the James Webb telescope, that is why, because we want to see the space, not in the direction of the sun. Then they have a protect cover that, and the mirror ever is located in a different, not in the direction of the sun, in opposite direction. And this is the orbit. This is position of the L2, where is located the James Webb telescope. It's something fantastic, man. What I don't know if for everyone that studies astronomy, that likes astronomy, that's something easy to believe, that the humanity now has condition to send the spaceships to any position and put in any orbit that they want in the solar system. For me, it's something ever that I analyze. This is the launch of these rockets, the journey of the spaceship until they arrive in the position is something fantastic, because you have different gravitational fields coming from the sun, from the earth. We now are analyzing only the sun and the earth, but we know that you have effects from the other planets also, but it's very difficult to deal with a problem with more than two bodies. And now we are considering three bodies: the Earth, the Sun, and the spaceship. Then something that's very difficult to find a solution. Then this shows how that we the development of the technology now is something fantastic that we can do this. This another shows the position and the orbit of the James Webb telescope around his orbit, the L2 position. The telescope didn't stay in a fixed position. They are orbiting, following the Earth around the Sun, but they have an oscillation around the L2. That you call this Lagrange point position. And these are two images that shows the importance of the James Webb telescope that is changing many things. The left image is the image of ultra deep sky image from the Hubble telescope, and in the right we have the same region in an image from the James Webb telescope. We can see the difference between both. Here a mosaic that was made joining both images from the Hubble and images from the James Webb telescope. This is our deep sky. It's something fantastic images. We have fantastic results. This is the Ring Nebula from the Hubble telescope, and now the same one from the James Webb telescope. We have different wavelengths that you analyze, but you can compare both. Now, this shows that we have fantastic data to analyze. We got images of objects at 13 billion and 5,000 million years ago. Is not so far from the period that we begin. We consider that happened the Big Bang, and is a region that we didn't imagine that we will find structures. Then I think that when we have better telescopes, we got receive data that can be make us to change the models that we have, that we consider. Then, as happened in the past, maybe we are now living a moment that probably we make discoveries that will make us to consider a different model, or make changes in the models that we consider, like the Big Bang. Let's wait to see. And now I have a new information. I read this today. I think that today that was announced Now Uranus now has 28 moons and Neptune 16 moons.
16.
More 3 moons for Uranus and 2 Neptune. Each day we have news. News, we have new discoveries and new information. Now, the moons of only around that is orbiting the planets, this is the final. Until today, I don't know tomorrow, but today, these are the data that we have. Jupiter has 95 moons, no moons, Saturn 146 moons, Uranus 28 moons, and Neptune 16 moons. We have so many moons now.
Wow. 146 moons around Saturn.
Yes. Most of them are small moons, very small moons,
Yeah,
but
still.
is
It's
orbiting the
amazing.
planets, is orbiting the planets.
Isn't it amazing? They're like solar systems unto themselves, each one. This is really
Yes.
beautiful.
If I was reading a book about the solar system from 5 years ago, everything is different about the solar system. Everything is changing very fast. You have each day you have new discoveries, new informations, new data. Then this shows that the technology that we now have control of technological resources that will allow us in few years to have unbelievable equipments. Like the telescopes, the digital telescope that you have now, that are very small digital telescopes, that give fantastic, allow us to have fantastic images. I think that in few years we have everything for us will change. For us, that's develop outreach activities, because we need new equipment. I was talking today with a friend about this. A few years ago, it's we go with a telescope. Everybody would like to see in the eyepiece, the images, but now all the kids have smartphones, have tablets, see the images here, and these telescopes allow them to see the images in their smartphones. I don't know if this generation now, if they have the opportunity to use the smartphones to get the images, if they will feel motivated to go outside to be with us to look in the eyepiece of telescopes. I don't know what will happen. I don't know what will happen. I can follow from my daughters. If they have a smartphone or a tablet for them, it's fantastic. I was remembering what happened with a group of friends that organized an observation. This happened more than 10 years ago. They was observing a lunar eclipse, but they had a telescope with a simulation of the eclipse animation. One person arrived and stay all the time looking for the simulation of the eclipse. They didn't look to the sky
They didn't look
to
up.
see the moon. No, she saw only the simulation, the computer. Then he left. Thanks then, and left. 10 years ago. This is something that make me to think about our future. What we need to do. I think that this soon everybody will be discussing this in the astronomy events. We cannot avoid this discussion because things are changing. These digital telescopes each day are less expensive than it will be possible for
Especially
everyone to buy.
considering the technology that they have, you know. So
Yes.
we we were at the Winter Star Party with this telescope, which is it is about $2,000, but we were able to live broadcast images of the Orion Nebula, and we were having 20 and 30 mile an hour wind gusts in on the beach, and it was still able to give us nice images of Orion and even Jupiter. You could see the cloud belts on Jupiter and this kind of thing. So, you know, and when you use something like this and also get involved in their citizen science programs and stuff, it's quite powerful, you know. So, you know, the integration of computers and software and imagery and all the rest of the stuff is allowing people to explore things in ways that they never dreamed that they could do. So, but you know, it is disappointing to think that somebody would just look at software versus looking up at the real sky. You know, so
Yeah, I prefer to look to the sky to have a manual telescope with no electricity,
me
nothing.
too.
Eh,
Yeah,
eh,
I know
I'm used.
David Levy would also agree with this. He looks at the night sky every clear night. So, what do you think, David?
I absolutely would totally agree with Marcello. And I'm not much of an astrophotographer, and that's something considering that I've taken thousands and thousands of astrophotographs
Yes, you have.
when I was observing with the shoemakers. But I'm primarily a visual observer. But I love doing that, and I love the process of going out under the night sky and looking up.
Yeah.
And Marcello, you did a brilliant job tonight. Thank you.
Yeah,
Ah,
thank you.
thank you very much.
It's nice to see the journey of where we've come so far, and we can only imagine, you know, as you say, what is the next only 5 years or next year going to bring us? You know, we have so many discoveries happening. It seems like every week or almost every day, and it is a great time to be involved in astronomy. If you're watching this show and you're just thinking about getting involved in amateur astronomy, I can recommend no other lifestyle than this, because it is filled with amazing people of the best character and doing some of the most interesting things you can possibly imagine. So,
Yeah.
yep, that's
I've,
right.
A little bit of business, Scotty.
Sure.
Sometimes you're hard to reach, sometimes you're not. But next week I will be there. I will be here, but I won't be able to stay much past my poetical thing because I'll be in San
Sure.
Diego.
Sure.
But I will be there for the beginning of it if we have one next
Okay.
week.
All right. Well, that's fine. That's
Great.
fine.
Just wanted to let you know.
Yep. And Marcello, I imagine you're already starting on the next edition of Skies Up magazine. You know, if you're listening out there and you'd like to submit photos or articles or whatever, you know, Marcello would be very happy to receive those and, you know, for consideration and submission in the magazine. So I write an article there, David Levy does, Marcello does, but also there are writers from around the world participating in this. So if you haven't got the most recent issue of Skies Up, you can just go to explorescientific.com/Skies Up, and we would be very pleased to have you read our latest issue. That's available right now. So,
and contributions will be very welcome.
yes.
Well, it's fantastic to know what people are doing around the world. We have
Yes.
so many groups that are
Right.
developing fantastic projects.
Right.
And the magazine is a space for they show what they are doing for all the world.
That's right.
Then contribution will be very welcome.
Well, excellent.
So,
Well, I think this is a wrap. Thank you so much to the audience. Thanks to our presenters. Thank you, David Levy, for co-hosting this program with me. And it's a definite highlight. I look forward to it all week long. So,
My honor to be with you, Scott.
yeah, same, same. All right, let's take this away, and I will. Good night, Marcello. Thank you. Thank
good night.
you.
Good
And
night.
to the audience, thanks. We have an international audience watching right now, and all the way from the UAE to South America and Europe, and of course here in the United States and North America, South America. So, anyways, take care, and we will be back with more Global Star Party.